So today we're prepping for the first boondocking trip. This will only be the second time spending any kind of overnight time in the RV. But I've got a nice place to go out at my dad's farm. So because I'm going to be not attached to services, I'm actually filling up the water tank, which still leaks. Even after the addition of the plug that was missing, it's still got a minor drip there. I'm not sure if I can or will do anything about that. I do have electricity plugged in to get the refrigerator cooled down. It's not warm enough yet to need the air conditioning, but the refrigerator takes a real head start to get going. I'm probably not going to want to take the full 30 gallons of water. I won't need it, and it's heavy. But what I can do is just monitor the level from here, and look, that's right at 2/3 right now, so we're going to call it done. That's close enough. So back to this, I've got that in there pretty tight, and I'm reluctant to break it. It does make me wonder if maybe there's a little rubber washer missing. If that's even where it's leaking from. I mean, I see water dripping off right here. I'm not sure where that's coming down from. It might be coming down from somewhere else, like one of these things. So it's actually up there, maybe just spillage. Maybe we'll just let it settle for a bit and see what happens. For now, I've just got this little fan running here, and that pulls in quite a bit of air to the side window here, so there's a nice breeze coming through here. Later this afternoon, this is going to be kind of a worst case thing. Today is going to be hot and muggy, tomorrow even hot and muggier. So we'll see how it goes at potentially the worst temperature-wise, heat-wise, days that I'm ever likely going to want to do. So there's my water. So I should now be able to turn on the water pump. I'm going to open a faucet. There's going to be a lot of air in the lines from having sat, so I'm going to open at least these faucets and get the water pump on. And the hot water tank should still be full from when I was plugged into city water. So I don't know where this is coming from. I just turned on the pump and it seems to run with or without the pump. That's really interesting. But I'm going to there we go. There's some of the air I expected. I'm going to let that get out of the system. That as it's still spitting a little bit, it might not, yeah, I guess the hot I spoke to, so that's working just fine. So that means the hot water tank is full, and I can go ahead and turn on the burner, which I've also never done, but I'll have to turn on the propane first. They say you want to check to make sure the gas lines are full of gas before doing something that's essentially invisible, like the hot water heater, so I'm going to go ahead and try to light a burner. And it's just starting to trickle out of there. Very slowly. I'm not sure why. Yeah, it's starting to come out of there. So there we go. It takes a little while, so that's nice. That lets you know that the gas is actually running through the system, and you saw how long that took. So it's good to know that before I try to find out if the water heater's working or not. So let's turn those off. I'll go ahead and turn on the water heater. And I'm not sure what indication I'll get. Well, there's a DSI fault. It might be taking too much electricity. I'm going to have to look into that and see what that light actually means. Red lights make me nervous. So I'll come back after I've looked that up. So RTFD as opposed to RTFM, which is read the freaking manual. Reading the freaking door tells me that I need to turn on the electrical switch to the on position. Now I thought that actually caused it to use battery to help heat the water. But I don't really know, and in the absence of knowing, I'm going to take the word of the instructions. So there's that little switch back there, and we're going to go ahead and turn that on and see what that does. So there it is with the battery turned on, or the electric turned on. Still getting that DSI fault. This may be because I'm on a 20 amp circuit and there's just not enough power, although that seems kind of ludicrous. I don't have the air conditioner or anything else on. So, oh, there it went. DSI fault went off. Now making me wonder if that means the actual water heater is lit and burning. So we'll go back out and take another look. And there it is. So we're getting hot water heated. They say it takes about 15 minutes to get a nice hot tank. This will be kind of a throwaway. I'm not going to use it for anything in particular. This was just really to see if it works. And clearly it does. Now what I don't know is if, well, to shut down the water heater, turn the power switch back off. So I guess that stays on all the time, and that's got to be drawing something off of the battery. I just don't know how much, which won't matter. It's plugged into the wall, so I've got 20 amps in. That's going to keep that battery charged for me. It's It's likely that this is the first time it's ever been lit, which is why it smells so bad. It has the smell of just some kind of oil or some kind of surface protection burning off. I don't think it'll last very long. It's actually kind of quiet once the door is closed, but you can hear it running. So we know that's working, that's good. One thing I noticed when I spent the night out here last week is that there's no clock in here. There is a clock on the microwave, but every time you take the power off, it loses its mind. So I now got a little $4 clock from Walmart, and I'm trying not to drill too many holes, so I got those little command sticky strips to hold that up. And I got a little bucket. This is the same thing. These little sticky strips that hold this little bin up, and those are the remote controls for the TV and the stereo. And my iPhone will go in there at night, so I can, that's a clock I'll be able to see at night. So I've got that kind of little convenience installed, and because it wasn't done at the factory or at the dealer, I installed the paper towel or the toilet paper holder, which I did have to use screws for, although I didn't use the ones that came with it because they're like an inch long, and I thought that's going to poke all the way out to the other side of the trailer. So I got a little bit smaller screws. They're number 6, self-tapping. They went right in. They're not going to hold a whole lot of weight, but then this isn't a whole lot of weight, so that should be okay. I've still not found a replacement for the mirror. I'm thinking I might go over to Hobby Lobby because they'll have sets of just cheap round mirrors that people use for centerpieces at weddings and such. And I mean, that's all I need. I just need to be able to look right there and see my face looking back at me. The old mirror is sitting in the shower. I'll get that out of there before we leave. It's just for want of a good place to put it, I'm reluctant to throw it away. I don't know why. It's going to provide me with absolutely no use at all. My new sheets came in. These are really nice sheets. These are Egyptian cotton. I think they're 500 something threads per inch, so they're very nice. So those will be going on later today. I had been holding them off until I knew that I was going to be able to get hot water, because I changed all the valves down under there to take it away from winterization. But I had bypassed the hot water tank while it didn't have the anode rod in it. That's in there now, and it's not leaking. So one thing I noticed when I spent the night out here last, or will be, you know, when I was a kid, I thought this is what made water hot and cold. You know, you wanted it hot, you held your finger here until it made it hot. If you wanted it cold, held your finger here until it was cold. Still a lot of air in the system. Oh, I don't have a water pump on. Yes, I do. There we go. That's warm. Okay, so that's working. So for now, I know that that's working now because that water is warm. It doesn't need to be hot. So I'm going to go shut that down. I'm going to turn it off right here. That should be enough to do it. But I'm going to turn that battery off anyway, because anything that's drawing against the battery is likely to cause me a problem later on today when I'm boondocking. So this is easy enough. You just pop this little dealie open here, and we're going to turn that switch. I bet it's hot in there. Off. There we go. Turned off the hot water heater, but I've left the propane on. And the reason for that is I'm going to let the 20 amps out of the house cool this thing down because that takes so long. But as I'm driving down the road, I'm going to push that button right there and turn that off, and then it's going to run off of the propane tank. And apparently it's very efficient. It could run for up to 10 days or so just off of one load of propane. So what that'll do is allow it to keep cold and then not have to use propane to go through the multi-hour experience of trying to get it cold again. So I'll see how that works. It's just basing this on things I've read on the internet, but it seems logical. And it's the kind of thing I want to be trying now while I'm close to home or close-ish to home. In case I get far out somewhere and, hey, wow, that didn't work. I should have tried that at home. So that's what's going to happen with the refrigerator. Well, here's an update on the leak, which is actually a non-leak. That must have been dripping down from where the hose was sitting in the filler neck. See how that water spot's just drying up and there's no further leakage. So that looks like it actually is fixed. So that's actually quite a relief. So we're getting ready to go. Got a load of stuff in the back of the tow vehicle. Bringing the R-dome, it's going to be a blistering hot day, and I may not want to mess with trying to set up an R-dome for the first time. What stopped me in the past is that it seems like it's going to be an absolute bear to get it back in that bag. Kind of like folding chairs and Chase Lounge. These days they've made the bags a little more generous. Back when these things first came out, I remember it was very difficult to get them back in the bag. And these are my bins of just stuff. I got citronella in there and bug spray, just shot glasses, couple different forms of liquor to go with that. There's a little fold-up water bowl for the dog. I've got my fishing equipment in there. Actually, I don't see my fishing pole. I should figure out where I put my fishing pole. It should be in here somewhere. It's a tiny little thing. It's about a foot. Here it is. Here, this is, I bought this for fishing in my kayak. And this is going to come in very handy, even in just the constrained packing, cargo hauling capabilities of the trailer. So this is a very nice little fishing rod. Works pretty well for its size. The springs seem to make a big difference, kind of mimic the length of a longer fishing rod. Got some clothing, and probably going to get dirty and wet. Got the generator in there, which is a must-have for the air conditioning. And of course, dog food. So still kind of set up for encampment here. I'm going to start breaking all that down and getting it hooked to the tow vehicle, the Hyundai, whatever you want to call it. I've been calling it a truck. It really isn't a truck. But in any event, it looks like we're pretty close to just hooking it up and heading down the road. So normally when hitching alone, I'll probably put some pictures somewhere. They're just these two little extendable, almost like an old radio antenna, extendable metal rods with magnets on the bottom and a big yellow squishy ball on top. And I'll put one of those on the tongue and one on the hitch, and then using the rearview mirror, I can line those up and back up until they're very, very close together, and that puts me in the general vicinity of the ball hitch here. I can't do that when I'm at an angle like this. It doesn't work as well. So this I'll just have to kind of do it just a step at a time and see if I can get it to line up through trial and error. The reason I'm at an angle like this is because there's an inconvenient curve in the driveway, and I like to get the thing parked back in the corner here so we don't hit it as we back out of the garage, because that little car right there is driven by my daughter, who has run into that garage at least twice from the outside and once from the inside. So I try to get things out of her way as much as I possibly can. So I'm just going to start creeping back here and try to get this in the general vicinity of the hookup. And I'm not even going to video that because it's probably going to be embarrassing. It's probably going to take quite a number of tries. It didn't take me long to change my mind on this. These are really handy, even for just getting in the general neighborhood. When it's a straight in back, you can line them up and it's just going to take you right there. When it's an angle like this, the distance, I'll be able to get to the distance, but then I'm going to have to get out and kind of fine tune to make sure it's right under the, they're all lined up and everything. So I think they're worth having just to make sure I don't back completely into the trailer and knock it off its stilts or anything goofy like that. This is what it looks like from inside, and as I move around, it's hard. Yeah, there you can see them both now. So the idea is just to line them up on each other like that. And like I said, that'll get me the distance. The angle will be a little bit off. That's the only thing that won't be quite right. So definitely worth using even in this scenario. So that's what it looks like with the first try. And you can see if I continue down that path, I'm going to be off just a little bit. So what I need to do, first of all, I'm going to have to jack up the trailer a little bit because it's level right now, which is actually the same height as the pin. So I'm going to jack it up a little bit with the little jack cranky thing. And then I'll just cut the wheels hard and see if I can angle that in. I might have to make a couple in and outs to get it just right. This is where it'd be handy to have somebody out here guiding me, but I could do that because I'm still at home, but I'm not always going to have that. So I'm trying to really practice this. I think this is going to be most of the way I do this. But you see, I don't have it quite up high enough. I want to get that up just a little bit more, about a ½ inch. So that's what it looks like completely lined up. So you can see the offset that comes from that angle. But it was still quite handy to get me in the neighborhood, and then it was just one or two very small movements to get it finished up. And the way I do those small movements, if it looks like it only needs an inch or so, I generally just leave the door open and pick a spot on the ground and move it. I just focus on that spot right there and just back up to what looks like about an inch, and that works pretty well. It didn't take me long to come up with a list of things I least like doing. This is one of them. This is a lot easier. I sprayed some Teflon lubricant on the jack thread here to make these go up and down a lot easier, and it's not hard to do. There's not a lot of effort to it, but kind of scrape your knuckles against here. This little handle, whatever little retaining spot was on here to hold that on is long gone. Probably some kind of clip, and I haven't found it laying around here. So this just tends to fall off. It kind of rubs me the wrong way, I say. So I got 3 more of those to go, and it says it didn't take me long to get to where I don't like doing this. One thing I can do is get an adapter for an electric drill, a cordless drill, that'll let me just drive them on up and down. I don't know if it's worth that level of effort. That seems kind of really, really lazy. I might have to do it though. This does get tiring after a while. So there's the stabilizing jacks all the way up. I'm still working on probably the optimal progression of doing things. So what I did before, I had to raise that up a little bit to get it to go on the jack ball. When I did that, I put a lot of pressure on these guys back here as that angle changed. and they're really not made for lifting. And lifting the trailer from just one or two corners, I don't know that it's rigid enough to really want to support all of that weight in one corner. So from now on, the stabilizer jacks go up first before I start mucking around up here. And I've still got my weight distribution bars in there. I'm going to be getting those out in a second. But I'm not really going to be able to put them on with this much of a jackknife. They'd probably go on, but it's going to be a fight. The sway control is the same way. I can put it on right now, and I think I will because I can. Because as soon as I drop it down onto the trailer ball, the length of that's going to hit the ground, and I'd have to hold that up at an angle and everything. I'm going to see if I can just get it on there now and not have to fiddle with it later. So that was pretty easy, but of course to do it, you know, the idea behind the sway control is that there's resistance against this silver bar that slides back and forth inside the black channel. And to get that loose enough to adjust it to its current position, I had to release all the pressure on it, which actually I had to do even taking the trailer off because it was kind of at an angle then too. But the downside of that is I don't really know the proper way to torque this, so that seems like right there, that's the way it was when I picked it up from U-Haul, but that seems like an awful lot of pressure. It's not really windy today. I don't know that I even need the thing. I didn't even ask for the thing. It came with the weight distribution package. I'm just going to back it up to where it's horizontal here, so it's just not something that's going to get caught on something. Now we're done with the little yellow balls, so we'll get rid of them. That's just that easy. And they're nice. They just reverse telescope down into a tiny little bite-sized package that'll fit right in there. And that's where I try to keep my water and towing and all that paraphernalia in there. And then back here is mostly electrical cords and things of that nature. There's not a lot of cargo space. You give up something with the big bathroom and all that over various floor plans. You know, there's not a all the way pass through kind of thing like there's with some, but it seems to be adequate for my needs, and that's all I was really asking for in this trailer. So there's the WDBs, or weight distribution bars. I invented the acronym. These are really easy to install. They just slip right up into that little socket there, and there's a little latch that holds them in place. And what that's holding into is there's a groove cut into that part of the WDB. And it's got a lot of grease on it because those need to be able to turn with the trailer. Mistake I made when I was putting those on at the trailer where I parked the storage at the storage lot is I set them down in the gravel, and that picked up little pieces of tiny gravel and dirt into that grease. So what you would have then is this swaying around with basically something like sandpaper in it, cutting away at the metal. Maybe not much, but enough to care. So I wiped it off of there and decided never to do that again. Now what you can see right now, you can see how low that's sitting to the ground, and you can see, look how low back tires are versus front tires. So what's going to happen is I'm going to use that jack to lift the thing up, and I'm actually going to use it to lift the truck up a little bit beyond level, and then these chains will go onto these little hoops, and then there's a big hollow rod that goes on the end of this, so you can bring that up over center. This is of course to lock it, so I'll have to remove that first. Get that up over center on both sides, and then you can release, you can take the jack back down, and all that weight will now distribute from just being on the tongue. It'll use those big rods as essentially springs. Those rods probably weigh 15 or 20 pounds each. They're hefty. So that's quite a bit of spring, and it's going to pick up quite a bit of weight. And we'll look again when it's done, and you'll see that the SUV sits a lot more level. And it does make a tremendous difference in how it drives. There was a little pause in that operation. There was a little pause caused by an infirmity I call too many birthdays or aging brain. I went to get the little pipe that you use to lift those little hooks over center. Couldn't find it anywhere, just not in there. And my assumption was I had picked it up and set it down somewhere, and then immediately forgotten where I set it. That is not at all uncommon for me. But after an exhaustive search in the vicinity and inside the SUV, simply couldn't find it, and finally it struck me, maybe it's just being a little bastard and hiding from me. Oh, there it is, you tricky little guy. So now we can press on. This is another instance where I scoffed at the need for electricity because this really isn't that hard to turn. But the thing is, you do a whole lot of it. So you can get a big electric thing on here that does all this jacking for you. I'm still not convinced I need it, but this does get really, really time consuming and repetitive. So this is the initial lift. I've got the truck lifted up a little bit. These fit nice and loose. I'm going to go ahead and hoist it up there. I may or may not have to change the number of links depending on how well the truck settles once I take the weight back off of the jack. So I'm trying to use the same number of links I had on it before when I picked it up at the storage lot, and hopefully that's relatively consistent. So you just jack it up there like that, and a safety pin. Everything should have a safety pin. Put it on that side so it doesn't conflict with the sway bar. Yeah, that's never easy. Okay, who's safety? Pitch my fingers doing that. So you can see the truck is still lifted a little bit in the front, and I could take up another link to put more weight on these bars, but I think you're supposed to have at least 5 links. You're not supposed to have it snugged right up underneath the trailer. And I suspect that's so they can turn. You need a little bit of flexibility. As you're turning this thing, it'll pivot, but that extra space has to go somewhere, so it's going to swivel against those chains. And if you get them too high up there, it's just not going to be able to do that. So this is the way I had it before. These are the same links I had before. It's the same way I picked it up at U-Haul. And I'll live with just a little bit of nose elevation there because I really don't want to break anything back here. So we're going to do our final walk around, make sure everything is attached and ready to go. So we've already done all this. Got a safety pin in there. That's nicely latched. I got wiring hooked up. I could tell by that when I backed up. You can tell that's working basically because the electronic brake controller comes on inside the car, truck, SUV. So I got my chocks and a big block of Legos. Those are for leveling it. They can support the weight of the trailer, so you just back it up on top of those. I got my electrical cord. I did look inside here. I was going to try to run the refrigerator on propane, which it's supposed to be able to do, but it was in here complaining. The little propane light was flashing. So I've gone ahead and put it on DC, which should be enough. I think the propane, I hear, anyway, works better, but the DC will have to do. And that's going to be drawing off of the truck battery, or the SUV battery, as we're driving along. So that's not going to cause us any problems with battery life. So I'll close those doors just before we go. Stabilizer hitches are in. Now this is a big one. This would be easy to forget, but you'd see it in your mirror. The slide out is in. You would notice that in your mirror almost right away, but slide out is in. That mark on my tire is a piece of gravel, not a nail. Okay, because I'm not carrying the spare. Spare's kind of a, well, it's a pain. I'm not gonna do it. Brand new tire, should be okay. Famous last words. All that's closed up. Everything's closed up out here and ready to go. We're all hitched up. Looks like all I need is a dog and we'll be on our way. So we're all loaded up and ready to roll. I've got the excited little girl in the back. This is going to be the best day of her life so far. She's only 1.5 years old and never really been on a nice trip like this. We do have to check the brakes, so that's all lit up. But the way you check to make sure it's working is push this little slide in. And I have those set at 3.3, which seems to, I can feel them working, but they're not dragging. So that's how you test to make sure that's working. I just want to make sure they're working. So that's all set. So we're ready to head on out. Here we go. So a few observations. First time out on the highway. It's going pretty smoothly. I'm limiting myself to 65, which means this is the longest time I've ever spent in the right lane being passed. The other thing is you can basically just watch the fuel gauge dropping down. And it's almost possible to see it moving. So it's going well though. It's a pretty easy drive. It's a nice smooth highway, but there's a whole slew of cars getting ready to pass me. In addition to a semi, that's going to be something to that'll be new. I don't think I've ever been passed by a semi before. So slow, but not slowest. So here we are off the highway, heading back down to our little camp spot. So another first time pulling this thing on gravel and under low-hanging trees. The TV antenna doesn't get ripped off. What's going on there? This is Cassie's first time meeting a horse. Well, I don't care who you are, that's just cute. Of course, she wants to play. It's like a big dog to her. Cassie. Bound to wear out eventually. Don't get run into. Just let him go. He can't catch her. Well, now he's wondering where his playmate went, but she's been put in timeout. If she's going to be disruptive like that, she's going to be on a rope for a while we get set up. And she may stay on the rope for the rest of the day. Hard to say. She's not liking it. She wants to go play with that horse. Down there is where I was planning on camping. If you go down around, there's a little creek running along. That's what that wood line is. The Greenville Creek runs along there. And there's a nice little area down there where I can pull off to the side, and that's where we do our fishing and such. My dad talked me out of it. He says there's a lot of bugs down there, a lot of high weeds, which is true this time of year. It can be pretty miserable down there. And being down low like that gets very, very muggy. So we're going to stay up by the house. So kind of boondocking, but boondocking with, you know, right next to a shelter should the need occur. So we're going to be setting up right here. And it looks like I found, starting out, looks like it's pretty level. We'll have to fine tune that because I want it to be pretty level after all. So the other thing I need to do is get the generator out and get the refrigerator on that so that it's not draining the truck battery. So lots to do. You can get busy. Did a little scouting and found this nice little outlet, and I have 150 feet of extension cord. That might be enough to run outside here. That, I'm not sure that garage door even opens anymore. It's been so long. That might be enough to come around here and plug in right down there. So if so, that would be a lot easier than the generator. So I'm going to take a look at that. First look inside the trailer. So first look inside the trailer, I did have a light change on me with a short yellow, and I had to get on the brakes pretty hard. So things have moved around a little bit. The cushions have fallen down. But other than that, it looks like everything did okay. The clock is, you know, essentially bulletproof and also currently wrong. So it doesn't even tell time very well. I don't know if I even care. So here we are, hot and sweaty already. Poet didn't know it. So we're all leveled, chalked, and stabilized. The air conditioner's running and making cold air. I went in to verify that because I'm hot and sweaty. So there's still a lot of unpacking to do. I might go ahead and set up the R dome. Never done that before. Don't know what it's like to try to do it alone. But in all the YouTube demos, they've done it alone. And of course, they know what they're doing. Big difference there. So Cassie has found a spot in the shade. I'm gonna have to get her some water out. She's thirsty by now. So there's a lot of unpacking and getting set up to do. So check in later. There's something went right. She'll actually drink out of that bowl. I bought that bowl for Cabot, who was afraid of it. So it went years without being used, but now Cassie's enjoying it. And it looks like she was pretty thirsty, so good to get her some water. The sun's kind of behind clouds now. It's not horribly hot, it's just humid, but she drinks a lot of water anyway. So there she is. What do you think, Cassie? Cassie, how you liking the camping? Reviews are mixed. 2 stars on Yelp. I'm not sure I've ever tried to stay in this thing with it not raining. Who's a good girl? Cassie, are you a good girl? I lost my bookmark, but I conveniently found some book bark, and it works. Look at that. Works just as well. And we're walking down to where I was going to camp until I got talked out of staying down here in the humidity, and it very much is. You get down in this little, I think Cassie just fell in a groundhog hole. Get down here where there's not a lot of air moving, and it's just kind of very much like a sauna down here. But it's nice. It's nice because it's by this little creek and it's somewhat secluded. But I think maybe in a couple months, September, October, when it's fall, this will be quite nice, and I'll probably come back. So this lower corner here is where I would have parked, and this is where we used to camp tent camping. And the nice thing about it, you get a nice campfire going here. And my brother used to keep this mode, but we haven't used it for a while, so he stopped doing it. Probably could have been done on request. But you come down through here, see now it's nice and shaded, and it's quiet, and it's not super hot, although it really is humid. But the nice thing down here, absent all the weeds, is you can used to be able to get down in that kind of overgrown area there, and that's a really good fishing spot. But only like first thing in the morning before it gets hot and the fish are still biting. It's really nice down in there. So come fall, when it's not quite as weedy, we'll come down here. That tree right there, my dog Habu used to love it down here. She'd go springing around the rocks out there in the creek, which I'll get to try to show you in a second. She's buried right under that tree, or her ashes are. She really loved the spot. So you can see down through here, water's kind of low. It's been a dryish summer. So not sure how many fish there would have been in this anyway, since it's really pretty low. But it is a nice spot. I hope she's gonna get all muddy down in here. All right, Cassie, come on, we'll take a look. There we go. So just the other side of this, where this water runs through, there's a little pool right there. And that's a great spot to catch fish. And there's a spider. There's a spider web on my hand, and the spider's crawling up. We'll get rid of that. There we go. It's kind of crawling up to my hand. I don't want that. So this is where I normally like to come when I'm camping. And I think the trailer would be good down here, but maybe not so much in mid-August. Let's see what Cassie's up to. I don't want her to get... Cassie, don't go too far and get all wet. And it's stinky water. She'll just smell horrible if she gets into that. But Habu loved to just bounce around from rock to rock. She was a little husky mix and very, very nimble. And she would just bounce from rock to rock to rock. She just loved this place. So when it came time to bury her ashes, I didn't think there was any place she would like more than this. I'd let her off the leash, but after the horse incident, I know I can't trust her not to run. And what would happen is, if she found something to chase, she would chase it into those woods, and there's no way in the world I'd be able to follow her in there. It's all weeded up in there. In the winter, you can get through there. In the summer, it's pretty much a jungle. So she's on a leash just because I can't really trust her not to run off. I'm not saying she would, but I don't want to take the chance. And it looks like a very good soybean year. Look how tall the beans are compared to Cassie, who's not really short. So it looks like a good bean year. And what's that way up there on the horizon over all of these beans? What could that be? It's an R-pod. Alright, Cassie. So Cassie won't eat her dog food. I brought some kibble for her, but in the evenings she gets kibble with a little bit of canned dog food on it. And I think she's insisting on something a little more than kibble. So I bought these Jack Links a long time ago. I thought they were Slim Jims, not the same thing. Much prefer a Slim Jim. But I brought these Jack Links along in case I needed just an emergency snack. I also brought beef jerky for that, so that's probably what I'd use. So Cassie is going to get some sliced up Slim Jim in her food and see if I can entice her to eat her kibbles. Because if she doesn't eat, and then she doesn't feel well, and she won't eat her breakfast, and then she won't eat her dinner, and she ends up making herself really sick. So it's important to get her to eat. See if a Slim Jim appeals to her. I'm sorry, a Jack Link appeals to her more than it does to me. Here you go, girl. See what you think about that. And there's the inspection and a tentative nosing around. She's licking, she's chewing on something. I think this is going to work. Let's take a look and see how Cassie is doing. That seems to have done the trick. She'll probably just pick out the Jack Link and not eat the kibble, but that's fine. As long as she gets something in her belly so she doesn't get sick. And by sick, I mean watery, nasty bile on my brand new camping trailer. So keep eating, Cassie girl, keep eating. If I had planned on cooking tonight, I guess I'll just wait until tomorrow morning. I do want to cook at least once while I'm out here, but Dad wants to go out to dinner, and I can't argue with that. He's alone, so anytime he can go out, we should do it. But for breakfast, I brought a couple of eggs. So I'll fry up a pair of eggs. And I brought bacon, but I didn't want bacon that was going to run a bunch of fat down into the gray water tank, so I got some hardwood smoked turkey bacon, which has very little fat in it, so I'll crisp that up and it'll taste something sort of like bacon, but because I'm camping, everything tastes better when you're camping. Dinner was going to be just these little microwave bags of rice. These are actually kind of handy even if you don't microwave them. You can just put that in a skillet and heat it up. It's already cooked. And I was going to slice up an onion. I brought myself a little bit of onion, fresh onion. And I was going to slice up some andouille sausage. So the plan was pretty simple. I would slice up this andouille sausage, slice up the onion, mix it in with the rice, and just cook it over the cooktop in a skillet. This will all keep. There's no reason I have to do this tonight. So I'll go out to dinner with Dad. We're going to Skyline Chili, which 99.99% of you people have never heard of. It's a Cincinnati thing. And breakfast tomorrow will be my first time cooking then. So that's going to be turkey bacon and chicken eggs because I couldn't get turkey eggs or something. I don't know how to end this one. All right, that was the plan. Here's the new plan: bacon and eggs. Off to dinner. Bye. Thanks. And Cassie, just for those people that will just be horribly miffed if I don't give them closure on this little episode, Cassie ate most of her food, and we're going to call that good enough.
Back to the inside corner. Two-one pitch, and he misses downstairs. Three balls and a strike down to Suarez. Again, Tyonen came into this ball game had not walked a batter in 24 innings, and a swing and a miss. Good sinking fastball down and in.
How's my girl? How's your night? Sleep night? Sleep well? There you go. We'll get your breakfast in a minute. I'm gonna have my coffee first. There you go. Alright, yeah, you slept well, didn't you? That's my good girl. Oh, that's good. How was your day yesterday? Good little camper. Such good friends. Hi, good morning. Good morning, big dog.
Good morning, little dog.
Oh, stop. We want to play. Man, this could be a one-dog sled team. This will work right up until the horse figures out we're on the other side of the pasture. Come on. Oh, here he comes. Keep going. Here he comes. Keep going, Cassie. Hi, buddy. Hi, 00. That's 006. All right, Cassie, we're going up the lane. See you later, buddy. So she's completely oblivious to this. And she's going to see it, especially when it finally bolts. And I probably ripped my arm right out of the socket. I don't know how to make that cat go away without Cassie noticing. Another problem. Alright, what do I got here? Bacon. Here's my fakin' bacon. Fakin' bacon. And eggs. Get these lit up. Slide around. Be careful of that. Alright, how are we going to open the fakin' bacon? Yeah, let's see. Aha. Good. Okay, well. Be planning ahead for this. Aha. Why you bring a survival knife. This was a matter of survival. Come on. Watch it on. Get out of the way. Cooking here, little girl. Don't want to burn you. Or me. Doesn't matter. Alright, we're going to go meat heavy on today's breakfast. 3 slices of fake bacon. Is that going to fit? Oh, it's going to be a tight fit. Hope they shrink up a little bit. Alright, we're not going to put a whole lot of heat on stuff. I don't know how. It's pretty good flame, so it's going to cook up pretty quick. How are we doing? That should be nice and warm, so let's get the eggs in there. I want to be ready. Trash can here for these shells. That made an appropriately sizzling sound. These are tough shells, or weak skillets. Alright, there's that and that. Excuse me, Cassandra, you're underfoot. Cassie Underfoot, that's my nickname for her, Cassie Underfoot. So how about a close-up of that sizzling like they do on TV? Let's get a close-up of that. Yeah, you can kind of sort of see it. So I'm a broken yolk kind of guy. Let's break those yolks. Don't like runny yolk. Salt and pepper. We had a bit of a situation with salt and pepper. I forgot to buy salt and pepper shakers. But I have here a little survival pack of plastic knives and forks that came with salt and pepper. So we'll get that out of there. Oh, come on. There's the pepper, there's the salt. This stuff is ancient. Might be just a big lump of salt in here that won't even granulate. And we won't need a whole lot of it. So let's try to get that out of there. It's like opening a Band-Aid when you got a bloody finger. Just don't have the hands for it. Okay. Alright, not getting any salt out of there. Let's do it this way, restaurant way, when you don't know how fast the shaker is. Just a little salt on there. Okay. That wasn't a pinch of salt, that was a palm of salt. Alright, pepper. We can't have possibly, there's no such thing as too much pepper, so we can just dump that right on there. Although we want that kind of sprinkled around. You don't want it all in one place. There we go. Oh, look at that. Alright, those look like they're about ready. Okay, well, the memory card was full, so you missed some excitement. these are my eggs. They're burnt to a crisp. I must have had that heater way too, or the burner way too high. So it was able to defeat the incredible non-stick quality of a Walmart type frying pan. So those are ruined. That also set off the smoke alarm, so it was beep, 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 and it took me a while. I had to open up some windows and get the fan going to get that to stop, so you missed some real excitement there. The bacon, though, looks like it's going to be okay. So I turned off both burners when the smoke alarm went off, because, well, it was irritatingly loud. So this is only half cooked, so I'll light this up and give it a little more on the other side. But with maybe not quite as much... I don't know what the word is. I turned the burner down. Oops. You kind of very careful when you get to the low end, or it'll just turn itself off. So I'm trying to get that. There we go. See how that does with the bacon. I think the eggs are a write-off. I'm not an egg person anyway. It's just because you really can't have bacon without eggs because it seems greedy or something. So, so we're just gonna have a little bit of faking bacon. The eggs will go in the trash. The trash will go in the bigger trash and eventually go to a landfill, and some nice little critter will dig that open and have some eggs. I guess I could give them to Cassie. Cassie likes eggs, but, well, I might throw a little on her breakfast. She's been a little picky on her eating. So I might throw this in a bowl for her once it cools off a little bit. I mean, it was basically on fire. And see if I can get her to eat some breakfast. So somebody will get some use out of the eggs. Just not me. So, you live, you learn. A little less heat on these burners. They're very, very efficient as it turns out. So I'm going to throw on a second cup of coffee and have some turkey bacon. Now let's see how Cassie feels about kibbles and eggs. Here's some kibbles and eggs for you, girl. What do you think? Oh yeah, just smear it all over the place. Now she's very easy to please when it comes to food, human food anyway. Oh well, so they didn't go to waste. Now she'll just finish that up while I finish up my fake bacon and another cup of coffee. Good for her. She's having a great day. We had a nice walk. She's getting a nice breakfast. What a great weekend for her. I'm making coffee with the fake Keurig. So I probably still have the cup. I'm going to turn these off too. I'll burn these too. Yeah, those are good. Doesn't really smell a whole lot like bacon, but it smells like meat grilling, and that's not nothing. Let's get the old K-cup out of this. This is a kind of a, it's nice to have. It was only $30. It's nice to have a K-cup maker, but it is kind of a little less sophisticated than an actual Keurig. There's a lot of manual effort here, manual latches and things like that. That has to be locked down, and this has to be unlocked. And I'm using bottled water, which won't be popular at home. I just can't see. Actually, I don't even know how much fresh water I have left. The gauge went from 2/3 to 0, and there's no commensurate increase in the gray or black water, so I don't know where all the water went. I may have it, I may not. But I think I'd like bottled water better anyway. I don't know about that stuff that's been in the tank. It's right out of a garden hose. Probably kind of nasty, so that. Now here's what I forgot to do first thing this morning is put the cup under there. I heard a nice little dripping, thinking here comes my coffee, and realized that the mug wasn't under there. This has to be latched, and that gets turned on, and this takes a long time compared to our real Keurig. This will take about 5 or 10 minutes, so we'll check back on that. Meanwhile, there's an empty bowl, so Cassie did enjoy her kibbles and eggs. Probably more than I'll enjoy my faking bacon and no eggs. I got a little grief on Facebook for posting a picture of my little bottle of Jameson Irish blended whiskey and a shot glass and saying this is the way you do camping. And one of the comments was just being drunk out, or how did it go? Camping is more than just being drunk outside. And I guess that may be true. I think eating turkey bacon with no plate, just right out of the skillet, with the windows open, hearing the birds singing, having the dog beg for more bacon, or fake bacon, that might be the essence of camping. It might not. But to me, it's it's the only way I'm going to do it again after having spent a night in a tent and woken up, covered in morning dew and all that, and just stickiness and bugs and I think this is the only way I'm going to do it from here on out. This is really quite nice. And this, considering that it didn't leave any grease in the skillet to deal with and put down the gray water tank, this is a pretty good substitute for bacon. Let's see what Cassie thinks. What do you think, Cassie? She agrees. 2 thumbs up, or well, no thumbs. They use that excuse their entire canine. So hey, you can't blame us. We don't have opposable thumbs. Pretty lame excuse, frankly, but they do use it. So 2 paws up, or 2 new claws up from Cassie on the turkey bacon. What do you think, girl? Well, if this isn't real camping, it's the next best thing, and it'll do fine for me. You can't have any more. Oh, you can't have any more. This is mine. Mine. Look at that face. Oh, if I got coffee that tasted like this in a restaurant, I'd throw it in the face of the waitress or pour it down the toilet or something. But you know, out here the sun is up, the breeze, real nice breeze. What passes for bacon and what passes for camping, it's good enough. All of it. It's all just good enough.